Welcome to Wellnova Health and Lifestyles. Here we talk about the things that quietly shape our everyday lives, our health, our food, our relationships, our habits, and the choices we make without always thinking twice. Through real life inspired stories, we explore what happens when those little choices begin to catch up with us and what we can do differently. So, take a moment, settle in, and let's get into today's story. This is Wellnova, better health, better life.
Marcus Ode hit snooze for the third time, which was a personal record even for him. Marcus was 31, a project coordinator at a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus. The kind of job that sounded impressive at parties, but mostly involved spreadsheets, Slack messages, and pretending to be fine during 9 a.m. meetings. He was smart, funny in a deadpan way that made his coworkers laugh when he wasn't trying too hard, reliable, mostly. And for the last year or so, he developed a very specific, very private theory about himself. He was lazy. Not officially diagnosed lazy, just lazy in the quiet way people confess to themselves at 11 p.m. while doom scrolling instead of doing literally anything they'd planned to do. His mornings had a rhythm, if you can call chaos a rhythm. Alarm at 6:45, snooze. Alarm at 6:59, snooze. Actual wake up around 7:10, which left him 14 minutes to shower, find a shirt that wasn't wrinkled, and inhale coffee like it was oxygen. He didn't eat breakfast so much as acknowledge that breakfast existed as a concept. Some mornings it was a granola bar eaten in the elevator. Most mornings it was nothing, just more coffee, his second cup, gulped in the parking lot before he walked in looking like a man who'd already lost an argument with the day. At work, he sat. He sat for the commute. He sat at his desk for 8, sometimes 9 hours. He sat in his car on the way home. And then, because apparently his body hadn't gotten enough sitting, he sat on his couch for the rest of the night. His girlfriend, Priya, a nurse who worked 12-hour shifts at a hospital across town, used to tease him that his body had entered power-saving mode sometime around age 28 and never came back. Do you know you sighed just now, getting up from the couch, Priya said, one Tuesday, not even looking up from the chicken she was seasoning. Like a 90-year-old man. I felt a disturbance in my knees, Marcos said. It's a medical condition. It's called Mondays. It's called you haven't moved your body in a productive way since the Obama administration. That's slander. I moved productively yesterday. I carried the laundry basket up the stairs. You carried it up halfway and left it on the landing for 2 days. He couldn't argue with that. The basket was in fact still on the landing. Here's the thing about Marcos though. Underneath the jokes, there was something quieter going on. He genuinely wanted to be a person who went to the gym, who cooked real dinners, who read books instead of watching 3 hours of nothing on his phone every night. He would download fitness apps and delete them within a week. He would buy groceries with good intentions, spinach, chicken breast, quinoa he wasn't sure how to cook, and then order pad thai because by 7 p.m. he simply had nothing left in him. Not hunger for effort, just nothing. I think I'm just lazy, he told Priya one night, half joking, half not. They were lying in bed, his phone lighting his face blue in the dark, hers charging dutifully on the nightstand where she had left it, because unlike him, she actually followed her own advice about screens before bed. What time did you go to bed last night? Priya asked. I don't know, midnight-ish. And you were up at 6:45. Give or take the snoozing. So more like 6.5 hours with 3 interruptions built in. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. I'm not saying it, Math is saying it. He laughed, but it landed differently than usual. Because if he was honest, and 12:47 a.m. Marcos was a more honest man than 7 a.m. Marcos, he couldn't remember the last time he'd woken up feeling like a functioning adult rather than something we heated in a microwave one too many times. The pattern didn't break on its own. Weeks went by, good stretches followed by slides back. Late night, extra coffee to compensate, fast food because cooking felt like a chore assigned by someone he didn't like. Work started to wobble in small ways too. A missed follow-up email, a meeting he zoned out of and had to ask someone to repeat, a deadline pushed later than it should have been, blamed vaguely on a lot going on. The moment that actually cracked things open wasn't dramatic. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Priya had a rare day off, and she'd planned a hike at a park outside the city. Nothing extreme, a 2-mile loop. Marcus made it about 3/4 of a mile before he had to stop, hands on his knees, breathing like he'd run his sprint. Are you okay? Priya asked, real concern under the casualness. Yeah, he straightened up, embarrassed. Give me a sec. They sat on a bench. I used to play basketball twice a week, Marcus said, staring at the trail. Now I can't do a mile without wanting to lie down. What happened to me?
Nothing dramatic happened to you, Priya said, choosing her words carefully. You stopped moving. You stopped sleeping properly. You started running on caffeine and takeout because it was easier than the alternative. That's not a personality flaw, Marcos. Your body's just tired of covering for you. She wasn't lecturing, not really. This was just how Priya talked, the same plain way she talked to worried families at the hospital. Chronic poor sleep, she said, doesn't just make you tired the next day. Health experts generally recommend most adults get somewhere around 7 to 9 hours a night, and consistently falling short can chip away at concentration, mood, even how the body regulates hunger and energy. Add in sitting most of the day, which, according to the World Health Organization, carries increased health risks when it isn't balanced with regular movement, and a diet running mostly on caffeine and convenient food. And what you get isn't a lazy person. You get a depleted one, a body rationing energy because it's not getting the fuel, rest, or activity to generate much in the first place. So, I'm not broken, Marcus said. I'm just running on empty and calling it a personality flaw? Basically, yeah. That's almost more annoying. I could have fixed running on empty. I've been sitting here thinking I needed a personality transplant. You don't need motivation, Priya said, bumping her shoulder into his. You need to go to bed. He didn't fix everything that week. He started small, almost stubbornly small. A regular bedtime, 11 p.m., phone charging in the kitchen instead of next to his head, which felt like giving up a limb for the first 4 nights. He moved his afternoon coffee earlier and cut himself off after 2 cups instead of the informal 4 to 6 he had been averaging. He started packing actual lunches, nothing fancy, just something with protein and vegetables instead of whatever the vending machine offered up as a personality. He didn't join a gym. He wasn't ready for that kind of commitment, and Priya told him he didn't need to be. He started walking during his lunch break instead, 15 minutes around the block near his office, which felt embarrassingly small at first, and then, after a couple of weeks, felt like the best part of his day. There were setbacks. A rough week at work sent him straight back into 1 a.m. scrolling and a diet of regret and delivery apps. He skipped his lunchtime walk 5 days straight and felt genuinely annoyed at himself, which, weirdly, was progress. Old Marcus wouldn't have noticed enough to be annoyed. I fell off, I admitted to Priya one night, sheepish. The sleep thing, the walking thing, all of it. Okay, she said, unbothered. So get back on. It's not a diet, Marcus. It's not all or nothing. You don't fail out of taking care of yourself. That stuck with him more than almost anything else she had said. 3 months in, nobody would call Marcus a different person, and that's sort of the point. He still hit snooze sometimes. He still had lazy Sundays that involved genuinely nothing but a couch and bad television, and he'd earned the right to enjoy those without guilt. But the difference showed up in the ordinary moments. Waking up without needing 4 minutes to remember his own name, making it through the hike loop with Priya without needing a rescue helicopter, having enough left in the tank after work to actually cook dinner 2 or 3 nights a week instead of every meal arriving in a paper bag. The laundry basket still occasionally lived on the landing. Some things are secret. What Marcus eventually understood wasn't some big dramatic epiphany. It was quieter than that. The version of himself he'd spent a year calling lazy had just been a body running on no sleep, no movement, and no real food, doing its best with none of what it needed. Fixing that wasn't about willpower. It was about handing himself the boring, unglamorous basics he'd been skipping and giving them long enough to work. He still thinks about that bench sometimes, and the way Priya didn't make him feel small for needing to sit down. Just handed him the truth instead.
He didn't need motivation, he needed to go to bed.
And that's one thing about life. We are always changing, and so is our health. Sometimes the changes we need isn't dramatic. It might be one better meal, one good night's sleep, one honest conversation, one walk, or simply deciding our well being deserves a little more attention. If something in today's story reminded you of yourself, don't ignore it. Take what is useful, make the changes that make sense for you, and when something concerns you, speak with a qualified health professional. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Wellnova Health and Lifestyles and join us for more honest, relatable stories about health, relationships, wellness, and better living. Until next time, take good care of yourself. This is Wellnova. Better health, better life.